back to a very special episode of the CineClub podcast. I'm Jake. This week I'm joined by guest Andrew Smith, who is also a student of the University of Sunderland. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hiya, thanks for having us.
No bother. So, as the TV series Thunderbirds has recently celebrated its 60th anniversary, I wanted to reflect on the legacy of the works of the Andersons and how they are being kept relevant in the modern age by the Century 21 Films Company. Can you tell us a bit about how you came to be involved with this, please, Andrew?
Right, I mean, a long and dull story, but I'll try and keep it short. So, Century 21, I co-run with a friend of mine called Stephen LaRiviere, and we've known each other for a lot longer than we should have, really. But we got together, and he has been a lifelong fan of all of the Anderson stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up with it as a kid. And he has, I suppose, devoted a good chunk of his professional life to documenting the history of the studios behind the things that people remember, behind
totally.
Thunderbirds, Stingray, Captain Scarlet, all of that. And when we became friends, we just automatically started working together on whatever came up. And I suppose what became Century 21 Films came about, even though we had a different name at the time, when we were asked by a company called Network, well, Stephen was asked, we have this interview with Gerry Anderson. Is there anything you think we could do with this? If you had to do something to celebrate the legacy, what would that be?
Okay.
So it was one of those moments where he was asked to pitch a dream project, basically. He'd already written a book called Filmed in Supermarionation, which was his version of the history. And so he basically pitched, well, let's just turn that book into a documentary feature. And that's where we began on what has become what we do now, I suppose.
Yeah.
There are projects before that, but I think that's the modern era,
That
for
was
want of a better way of putting
the
it.
catalyst for what it is now.
I think so, yeah.
Excellent. Well, like you say, it's filmed Supermarionation. A little bit personal, but I frequently credit that documentary as being one of the things that inspired me to pursue film and media.
Just terrifying.
I know, that's the thing. I was like, I don't really know how to approach this without being like, by the way, this is like, but it's for me, I mean, it's like I said in this, the approach to film and models and practical effects fascinated me from a young age. Sounds so corny, but I have to say it's very surreal discussing it in this context. I mean, for me, I do, because I grew up on a lot of that stuff. My dad watched it when he was a kid, then sort of passed it on to me, and I remember watching a lot of Thunderbirds, less of the others, mainly Thunderbirds, as most people. I got into the others sort of off the back of learning the story a bit more, but I remember it must have been when it first premiered on Channel 4, I think. And I remember my dad was just in the living room and he just flicked onto this channel and he was like, and I was like, oh, Thunderbirds. And he was like, yeah, it's like a documentary about making it. And I was like, oh, right, okay. And I just remember, you forget a lot of things from that sort of era, but that is one of those things that sticks out in my head. I just remember sitting there watching it with them, loving it, and just seeing all this, the sort of behind the scenes footage and how, I guess, sort of grassroots it is in a way, because it's you don't really expect that kind of production value from an industrial estate in Slough. It is so Hollywood looking, and
it was a complete cottage industry and so British as well.
Yeah, exactly that.
It could only have happened at that time, at that place, with those people. I think that's what makes the story so special. Yeah,
no, totally. And I remember watching that and just thinking, that's my dream job. I want to do that. I want to be one of those people. And from that was when I started sort of looking at it and thinking, because you say, it's so sort of from the ground up, I just thought I could do that. So me and my friends, we were putting wires on things and flying models and trying to film them in stop motion, in that sort of style, and being how hard it, obviously it's harder than it looks, but it's but I just remember that being such a inspiration for me, and I had a load of friends at the time. This was middle school, and they were all really into, making films and similarly, really nerdy, and they hadn't really heard of these as much, but I did, but they all liked, 80s films with loads of practical effects, and I was like, well, this was that, but 20 years before and being done in Britain, and they were like, oh, what, really? And so, you know, it was really cool. And I mean, my dad was equally interested. He sort of fanned the flame a bit, and but then, you know, I grew out of it, I guess, because it's not cool to like it, you know, when you get a bit older. But then now that I'm at uni, it's like, oh, actually, yeah, who cares?
You can be who you want to be again.
You can be who you want, yeah. So then I started getting more into it again in like A levels, and that was when I was like, you know, collecting the VHSs and getting more interested in the like sort of technical aspects of it, and just the like, you know, the color and the how detailed it all was. And I mean, you know, it's amazing. Anyway, but yeah, so can you tell me a little bit more about what making that documentary was like, or any particular memories that stick out for you?
It's all one big blur of stress, to be honest. Obviously, it was amazing to work on, but it was very challenging. I think the biggest thing that we took away from it, sort of as filmmakers, is we went into it knowing the story and knowing theoretically how this stuff was made.
Yeah.
But especially Stephen, because he was just so steeped in it.
Yeah.
And part of our pitch for the film was that this isn't just going to be talking heads. We're going to have the characters from Thunderbirds, particularly Penelope and Parker, host the documentary, their through line through it all, which meant we had to film new Supermarionation material.
Yeah.
We thought,
well, how hard can it be?
Exactly. We knew it wouldn't be easy, but we didn't anticipate quite how intricate it is. I think people think that, okay, so you've got puppets, you dangle them in front of the camera, you turn your camera on, you film them as you would anything else, and it's definitely not that. There's a very specific set of ways in which you have to photograph these characters in order to make them not look like dolls. To make them not look like Woody from Toy Story.
Exactly.
You know?
They have to look like actors or characters rather than just toys. You know?
And the whole thing they were going for in the 60s was bringing these things to life.
Yeah.
The team behind Thunderbirds and Stingray and all that stuff wanted to make live action films.
Yeah.
And they were presented with, well, could you make these puppet films? So they thought, well, we'll do it as best we can. We'll do it to match the things that we would rather be doing, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing that always makes me laugh about the whole story is like, you know, in the media, Gerry Anderson gets so much credit for it. He hated it. You know, I think deep down, really, he did not want to be doing that. And
definitely. I think the famous quote is when he was offered the first production, The Adventures of Twizzle, he talks about being offered 52 episodes or whatever it was, and great. And then they mentioned it was all going to be done with puppets.
Yeah.
At which point I almost vomited on the floor, which I think is, an overreaction. It's a good story. How much of that is true, I don't know. But definitely, it was a conflicted relationship he had with them, because
100%.
All of his greatest successes came with it, but it wasn't what he wanted.
Yeah, which is what you see when he gets to like UFO Space 1999. I think that was more what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then sort of fell back on it with Terrorhawks, I guess. But
well, I don't think any of them, I mean, that's a generalization because there were hundreds of people working on these things, but I don't think any of them really appreciated quite what they had while they had it.
Yeah, totally.
It was a very brief period during the 1960s, this window in which they were churning out so much product in a very small window.
Yeah.
And I think they were too busy to really think why it worked, what impact it was having.
It's
and
like TV equivalent of the Beatles, basically. It's like the same run of time.
Yeah,
where like that,
roughly the same window as well.
The same window, and like you say, you don't really appreciate the legacy at the time, I suppose. So, what happened after this? Did you anticipate the team working together for as long as they have? Or?
I think after Filmed in Supermarionation was done, I think a group of us were kind of forged in fire a bit. We knew we could work together, so it would be nice to work together on other things.
Yeah.
But there wasn't any grand plan or anything. There was talk of doing a documentary on something completely different that ended up not happening. Okay. So it wasn't that we were bound to pursue this Supermarionation career. that's almost come together, not by accident, but just circumstance, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose once you had one successful thing, it probably led to others, I guess. But
I mean, the film, I've no idea about numbers, but the film did well with the audiences that saw it.
Yeah.
We got very nice reviews and feedback, including from ITV, who own the catalogue now.
Yeah.
And when the 50th anniversary of Thunderbirds was coming along, ITV basically asked Stephen, what any ideas what we could do?
Mm-hmm.
They had nothing. And it was another one of those things. I don't think they were expecting us to pitch something to the level that we did.
Yeah.
But if we've got this opportunity, let's just say pie in the sky, what would the ultimate thing we could do be?
Yeah.
And so in the 1960s, there were 3 records that were released.
Mm-hmm.
They were called mini albums.
Right.
About 20 minutes-ish each. And they were audio-only stories of Thunderbirds.
Okay.
They did other records, which were the soundtracks to the existing episodes.
Yeah.
But these 3 were specifically written just for this.
Okay.
And so we said, we'll take those soundtracks and we'll put visuals to it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll get, it's the last chance at doing quote-unquote authentic Thunderbirds.
Yeah.
Those voices are they've either passed away, those actors, or they're much older and they don't quite sound the same.
Mm-hmm.
This would be the last chance you get to hear those characters in the way they sounded.
Yeah, totally.
In brand new, to most people, adventures.
Yeah. Sort of like time capsule of that particular era that you just can't get anymore. So
and based on what we'd learned through doing FIS, we thought, well, we'll do exactly the same techniques, or as close as we can to what they were doing in the 60s. And to our astonishment, really, ITV said yes. And then we had to figure out how to actually do it.
I didn't think I would get this far.
There was a bit of that, yeah.
It's like, now we've actually got to do it.
And not only did they say yes, they said yes, and if we agree to this, it has to be ready by this date. So we had months, really, to build a studio from scratch, produce these episodes, get them edited, get them ready for a very specific screening window that ITV had, where they wanted to celebrate the anniversary on this particular date.
Yeah.
So again, it was just pandemonium.
That's it. Yeah, it's like because I mean, obviously there was Supermarionation bits filmed in Supermarionation in the documentary, but like the scale of content needed for that compared to, it was basically like an hour and a half with the 3 episodes, so because they were like half an hour each, weren't they? So like, I mean, I could see that
whereas
being
FIS, it was about 10 minutes,
something like that. Yeah. But did you got Sylvia Anderson and David Graham and all of them back for that to do the voices?
For filmed in Supermarionation, we did, yes.
So they were still doing the voices, but then, like you say, a lot of them have passed quite recently as well. David Graham, I mean, that was
he reached an absolutely ripe old age, and it was great fun to be around.
Oh, really? I was going to say, what was it like?
A lovely man. And obviously, when someone like that comes in, everybody stops for a moment and just considers, how fortunate you are in a way to.
Yeah, totally.
Especially, we did. I mean, this is getting ahead of ourselves, but years down the line, we did a series called Nebula 75, which was our own idea of what a Supermarionation series could be. And we wrote a part that he voiced.
Okay.
And so to hear your words coming out of that actor's face, and it's a new character as well. It's not just him doing Parker again.
That must be so surreal.
It is. And knocking out of the park in his 90s as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, he really was still doing all of that until very, very recently. So
absolutely.
It's crazy. But
and the day that Sylvia Anderson came into the studio for filmed in Supermarionation, we were filming at Bray Studios, where a lot of the Hammer stuff was made. That's where we set up our little puppet unit. And Sylvia Anderson comes in. It's like a visit from the Queen.
It's
Lady Penelope is here, even though she was into her, I suppose, mid-80s by then. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But just to inspect and shake hands and magical.
100%. Because with Sylvia especially, I mean, it's like Lady Penelope, but also like one of the main driving forces behind all
absolutely,
of it.
The co-creator, part writer sometimes, directed the voices a lot of time, provided voices. She was all over it.
It's just crazy, and like you say, she's to be so involved like alongside everyone else. I think, yeah. I mean, I'm very jealous that you got to meet them. So, I think we've sort of covered most of that. I guess. Do you remember like any particular like real challenges trying to get those anniversary episodes made? 'Cause I have seen the little like the sort of YouTube featurettes and all, like, you know, string snapping and all the sort of things you would expect, but like,
yeah, I think it's a string snapping of the least of it, to be honest. They're the most obvious things.
yeah.
I the force of my sigh there might have caused the mic to pop. Just lots of things, and things that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate. So even something as simple like when they made Thunderbirds in the 60s, and when they made all of the Supermarionation shows in the 60s, in order to get the characters to occupy the frame in the way they want to, again, not appear like just dangling dolls.
Yeah, totally.
What you'd have to do is to overlight the set. So you flood the set with light, and then you close down the aperture on the camera,
Okay.
and it gives you the effect that you want.
Yeah.
It helps that. And back in the day, there would be so many lights that the heat would get so intense, like the costumes, the zips on the costumes would start to melt the metal. We didn't have that so much because a lot of the time, not all the time, but a lot of the time we were shooting digitally.
Okay. Yeah.
And sensitivity of the cameras meant to get that effect, we didn't need quite the same amount of light.
Yeah.
We needed the same end result, but didn't need the same amount of light to get there.
Presumably you can use LED lights now, which aren't quite
Sometimes.
as,
I mean, we used a lot.
yeah.
We used a lot of old school tungsten, but sometimes the
right,
LED.
Okay. Oh, there you go. Even better.
But one of the things that you find when you're flooding a set with light, all of the colours change. Everything brightens up.
Yeah.
So the Tracy Lounge, the main set of Thunderbirds, we ended up having to paint that 3 times. So we filmed the scenes for that several times, just because when you went back to look at it after a couple of days, and you think, actually, no, that's not right.
Look how it's supposed to.
Yeah. And if that was anything else, you'd be, well, it's a different shade of green. Who cares? But you're trying to match something that a lot of people have such a fondness for and have seen 1,000 times. If it's not right, there's going to be an issue.
Somebody on Twitter will be like, well, it's good, but that chair isn't quite as green as it was in 1965, you know? So, like, yeah, no, I could imagine that. And I guess it doesn't, well, it helps for the audience, for literally everyone watching, that it's such a, like, colourful show. Like, it's like in that sort of, I like always credit, it's that, Batman and Star Trek as like the sort of 3 really colourful, like amazing sort of like demonstrations of what TV colour could, and I wish still did look like at the time. So yeah, it doesn't really help that it is so like lovely and colourful looking to then have to then try and match that and make it, because you want it to look as like nice and colourful as possible, really.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, it's a character within the show.
Totally.
It's the look.
Yeah, that's it.
And so there were just tiny things like that. And then I think one of the most nerve-wracking days, even though it didn't end up going wrong, but in the 3rd episode, it was called The Stately Homes Robberies, we'd written, this wasn't in the mini-album, so the mini-albums were written to be audio stories, and to make them work visually, we restructured them, we occasionally wrote new bits in, and we wrote a massive explosion to the start, because there was no explosions in any of these albums, and that's a big thing of Thunderbirds as well.
You need the explosions. If you're going to make new ones, you need at least 1 per episode. Really.
And so we had this massive mansion blowing up in the script, and a chap called David Tremont, who came over all the way from New Zealand to work on this stuff. He was working with Weta Workshop at the time and took a leave of absence just because Thunderbirds was what got him into modelling in the first place.
That's it.
And so he spent weeks building this thing, this mansion, and we had 1 chance to get it right. And if it's not right,
he's going to have to go back to square one.
He can have a very upset New Zealander. And so we put multiple cameras on it. But at the end of the day, you've got 1 chance to push the button. And if it goes right, brilliant. And if it doesn't, you're stuffed.
You've got this guy who's come all the way on a leave of absence, like you say. I mean, oh my God. I didn't know that it was like somebody else had been involved doing that part, because that is...
Well, he was with us throughout. He stuck around with us for however many months it took.
Yeah.
Even went back to New Zealand and came back because he wanted to stay even longer.
Have you got any other projects you worked on that you would like to mention?
Is this where we come to Nebulous?
That was sort of the lead into everything else.
So. Sure. After the anniversary episodes, we kind of became go-to people for anything to do with this particular art form.
Yeah.
So we ended up working on like an advert for Halifax that had Penelope and Parker and brains in the online stuff. And started formulating plans for where else can this go, what else can we do. And we did have some interesting plans in around 2019, 2020 that were under discussion. And I don't know if you remember what happened in 2020, but it wasn't great for industry in general.
No.
So all of those plans went out the window when COVID came along. And we were twiddling our thumbs, basically, like everyone else.
Yeah.
But in our case, I live in the Northeast.
Okay.
Stephen lives in London, along with two of the other guys who've been with us for a long time. There's Geraldine Donaldson and Elliot Pavlin. They all, at that time, shared an apartment together in London. And a lot of our stuff was still in that apartment and in various storage units and what have you. And so we thought, well, let's just do something. Let's just make something.
Yeah, exactly. Just to pass the time.
Yeah. What can be made in that flat with what's available, and we'll just stick it out online. And so Stephen and I got together and co-created a series called Nebula 75.
Right.
And the idea behind that was this is a show from the 60s that somehow everyone's forgotten. But now we're bringing it. We found the missing films. And
yeah,
they are.
We've found the cans. They're on YouTube for everyone to enjoy now. It's that sort of vibe.
And so it was a very sort of modestly planned story. We sort of like a chunk of a pilot, I suppose. It was a 10-minute program.
Yeah.
All about this spaceship from Earth that gets hurled into the far reaches of space and is lost and has to get home and encounter. Not the most original of ideas, but in terms of the characters and stuff, we think we've assembled quite an interesting bunch.
Yeah, totally.
And it gives you the scope to, under those lockdown conditions, we had to think, okay, what can we actually do as well? The massive explosions are out. We're not doing that in the living room.
Blow up your apartment.
And so we put out the 10-minute pilot that ended on a sort of a cliffhanger.
Okay.
And it just went down really well. Really well.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of people watching it. It got covered in the Radio Times and things like that. I think people were just desperate for something to distract them.
Yeah, 100%.
And combine that with the fondness for Supermarionation and the fact that new stuff doesn't come along.
No.
I compared the appeal of it to Aardman and to Wallace and Gromit and things like that. It's that handmade feeling. It's the Britishness.
Yeah.
But unlike Aardman, it wasn't a going concern. You don't get a new Supermarionation thing every
you really
year
don't.
or so.
It kind of was a flash in the pan thing at the time, and then has just become either the subject of parody or just people just rewatching it. So it's like there has been similar stuff since. Like, I'm a big fan of Starfleet from the 80s. If you've ever watched that, that's the same sort of vibe, but that one mixes it with like anime, so it's almost like you're watching like an 80s anime, but with like puppets and stuff. But yeah, so like you say, it's familiar, where like even people who aren't massive fans of it, you say Thunderbirds, people know, which I think is why, like the Halifax advert, for example, it's like, people will recognize these characters, they will know what it is, even if they're not as nerdy about it as we are. Like, it's still...
Yeah, it's an overused word, but I think a pairing like Penelope and Parker are iconic.
Of course, yeah, totally.
And even if you don't know those characters, if you haven't grown up with those characters, they're kind of instantly recognizable. The posh lady and the butler it's an archetype. So yeah, I think that's part of the reason that so many people responded to what we stuck out online. So then we thought, well, people are asking, let's do the conclusion to that little story. So we'll make the part 2. Oh, people like that. Let's do another. What would the next episode be? Where does it go?
Hypothetically.
And we ended up doing, I can't remember how many it was in that run, like 5 or 6. I
Wow.
can't quite remember, during the first lockdown.
Yeah.
And I had it easy. I was up in Gateshead remotely writing scripts and looking at edits and doing editing and what have you. But those 3 were producing that on their own in the living room with
It's amazing.
sets built onto the back of bookcases and. Argos got some good business out of us because we just kept buying these bookcases that were the perfect size for puppet sets.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And when lockdown sort of eased a little bit, I was able to go down and join them for a couple of months, and we did a Halloween episode and a Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And then the second series came about, and it's just one of the weirdest turns that. The series was bought for Japanese television. So
that's it.
Something that was made in a living room because we were bored and then stuck on YouTube, ended up on a channel in Japan, dubbed as well. Like this wasn't, they didn't just stick subtitles on it, they went full on. It was around the time that they were showing the Thunderbirds episodes we'd done in the cinema.
Okay,
for the first time, and they dubbed those as well. So it was a big push because it's massive out there.
It's really popular in Japan, which I've always thought was really interesting because, like I say, as somebody who's also a massive anime fan, I love tracing it back to that. And I mean, it's just, like I say, it's crazy to think the link between this sort of like twee British sort of development versus like these crazy anime that get made sort of by people who similarly grew up watching that at the time and then were inspired by it.
Yeah, I think it's massively culturally influential. Yeah, here and out there. It's
totally,
and not something they ever could have anticipated when they were making it.
No, God, no.
So yes, series 2 we were making with the knowledge that along with series 1 this will end up on Japanese TV, and we're still going to stick it out on YouTube over here. And and by that point, lockdowns were over, and so our lavish expense for that was we filmed it in a church hall instead of a living room in Harrow, and we're able to bring in members of the team who hadn't been able to join us before. People who we'd had people make things and send them down. Like the ship itself, the Nebula 75, was built by Hilton Fitzsimmons, who'd worked with us on everything. Basically.
Everything up to that point.
And he built that, stuck it in the post, sent it down for the first episode. It went missing for 3 weeks.
I was just about to say, imagine if you lost it. Yeah,
we genuinely did. It just went, and then one day it turned up. It's like mirroring the series. So he was able to come down and actually join us in the studio, and we did that. And we were able to get David Elliott back, who was an original director in the 60s, who'd worked with us on the anniversary episodes and came in to direct a Nebula 75. And just an absolutely great bloke who I was going to say we lost fairly recently, but I think it must be 2 years now.
2 or 3 years, I think.
But still very, he was, even though he was an old man, he was very much a part of our team.
Rather than, sort of like,
it was just
tacked on, like it was like he was like with yous rather than just a guy you brought
he was just part of the team, helping out with absolutely anything, but also just this immense resource that you could draw upon because he was there, we miss him a lot. But just great to do to do an episode that he's directing in the 2020s. That's mad.
It's crazy, but because what was it like for? I mean, I guess this kind of applies to all the stuff you've done. What was it like? Did they ever say what it was like for them coming in and sort of doing this thing that they've not done for 50, 60 years at that point? I guess was it something they enjoyed going back to?
I think so. If they were being honest with me, I
mean, it's obviously they wouldn't have said to you that they hated every minute of it. I would have thought, but you know what I mean. It's just,
and particularly the behind the scenes guys, like David, Mary Turner, the puppeteer and sculptor, who's joined us on multiple projects.
Yeah, I was going to ask about her at some point.
And the thing about someone like her is, it's like she doesn't even have to try. She just goes into a zone, and it's there again. And again, in her 80s, climbing up a ladder onto a bridge above a set to operate puppets, as if she's in her 30s again. And the arm strength that those puppeteers need in order to maintain what you need in order to film, because you're not just filming a 30-second take. They're hanging around but a long time beforehand while you're
In
lighting,
between
getting
while
cameras.
you're sort of setting it up. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was amazing. And yeah, I think they both enjoyed the experience. I'm sure they were a bit befuddled as to why we were doing it sometimes. This is all stuff that they did in the 60s, and then the world has moved on. But we're saying, but no, it's still viable.
No. Let's do it again. It's great. Yeah,
because Dave Elliott began as a film editor, became a director. Went back to film editing, and by the end of his career, he was working, in Final Cut Pro and stuff.
Yeah,
and to his mind, the new stuff was just so much better because it was just easier.
Yeah,
editing film is a labor-intensive process.
Yeah, totally.
And so when we're going and saying, well, let's use the old techniques, I'm sure sometimes they thought, well, why? but then you see the end results and you enjoy the time on set, and I think you realize why pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's it, and it's just that authenticity. I think because I think attention to detail it's always something I've had a massive respect for in like all of your work, all of the original work, just every element of it, the just every look, to the point where, like, I mean, nowadays when you watch it, because I love watching them on VHS because I feel like that's quite authentic, but when you watch them now, I was rewatching some episodes like on ITVX the other day, and like the upscale, it's amazing, but it still doesn't make it look like, you say, like toys on sets. They still look so real because, like, like the vehicles are all weathered and like everything, just like there's so much detail in every frame of it. It's like so well thought out.
A comparison that we always come back to is if you look at an episode of, say, Stingray from 64, 65.
Yeah.
Kids television show, half an hour, and then you look at an episode of Doctor Who from the same period.
Yeah,
I love Doctor Who.
Yeah,
but it looks like amateur hour compared to what they were doing.
That's it. Of course, it does.
And I think the Century 21 crew and the AP Films crew, they weren't treating it like a disposable TV show kind of thing, and they were treating it like film. They were making a Hollywood blockbuster every week, basically, which I think comes across in the episodes because it does feel so epic, and grand, like in the way they do everything. So, and they were doing it on film for one thing. It wasn't videotaped like so much television was, and they were watching the rushes on a big screen. They weren't judging it for the small screen. So if it didn't look good on the big screen, it would be redone.
Yeah,
even though most people would see it on a few inches across
black and white telly. Yeah.
Even though they were making Stingray in color, the first British TV series to be in colour, in full. Most of the audience didn't see it like that just for a long time.
Yeah.
If you talk to David Elliott about the episodes he did in the 60s, he never called them episodes. It was the film that I did.
Yeah.
And I think that's very telling.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually, just to think of it, that they considered it like that. And I guess for you to get that perspective from them, because like I say, I've never met or worked with any of them, but even like for me, I have always just seen it as like short films, like they still translate well to a big screen. I was a bit worried because I did think, I'm going to go and watch it and it's just going to be like, you'll be able to see all the strings and it'll totally break the illusion. But I think A, that stuff adds to the charm of it, and B, it really didn't, it really did like feel like you were watching a feature film, you
just become absorbed in it.
You do, totally.
I think the thing about seeing the strings and the wobbliness, I think to an extent you have to say that Gerry encouraged some of that feeling in the way he talked about his own work. He often did himself down a bit.
Yeah.
I
don't think people really would have said that until he started saying that, or at least until he slightly encouraged that belief.
Yeah.
Or maybe till Team America also encouraged that.
Well, that has its own stuff to answer.
That has its own stuff to answer for, but yeah.
And I think people just don't care.
No,
they just it's drama, it's excitement, and if there's strings, they feel like they're clever for seeing the strings.
Yeah, exactly that. It just feels cinematic, and I think it's I've always had a massive respect for that. So yeah, so Nebula 75, big succse.
Bigger success than we ever could have anticipated.
Yeah. Excellent. Did ITV comment on any of that at any point, or was it all just for YouTube for you guys?
On Nebula?
On Nebula, yeah.
Nebula's just entirely our own thing. ITV owns the catalogue of the old shows, but they don't have any claim on the process itself. So it was our own independent thing completely.
Because I know you did that. You did the thing with Endeavour as well, which was a similar sort of process.
Well, that's kind of that Endeavour's kind of the stepping stone to Nebula 75 in that we were brought onto this detective drama to do a show within a show.
Yeah.
So it was set on the murder mystery happened at a puppet studio, which looks a lot like, but isn't for legal reasons, the actual Anderson studio, because no one was murdering each other back then.
No.
And so we did that. So some of the puppets in Nebula 75, the reason we had them around was because they'd been made for Endeavour.
Yeah. So that was sort of the thing that was what led to that.
Yeah.
You had it handy.
It dictated the choice of the genre and the plot and things like that.
Which is convenient, I suppose, because I think it might have been a bit more difficult to do something new if you just had the Thunderbirds puppets. Yeah. It'd be like, oh, well, that's just Scott Tracy. Like, you know, so it's like, yeah, that works in that sense. But yeah, I've seen quite a few bits and pieces of Nebula 75. I'm really going to have to watch all of it because even just the gist of it, like you say, I mean, it is just Robotech meets Fireball XL5, that kind of vibe, which is, I mean, that's completely my vibe. So excellent. Oh, well, that sounds very good. I think that sort of covers all of that. Is that?
Can I drop one more thing in?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Most recently, what we've been focusing on is sort of more of an archive project.
Yes, I was going to ask about this. Thank you for reminding me.
Get the plug in. Which we've called loosely Rescuing the Past.
Yeah.
And an abbreviated version of how this has come about is the family of one of the original editors from the Supermarionation days in the 60s got in touch with us to say, we have these films. They've been in a garden shed for gosh knows how long.
Yeah.
Would you like to see them? Could you tell us anything about them?
Yeah.
And upon inspecting those, they were what are called answer prints.
Yes.
So there was prints that are struck for the studio to approve in-house before
it gets sent off for sort of distribution.
Yeah, exactly. It's a chance to catch errors in grading or whatever. And because they're answer prints, what we found was some of them match what went out and some of them don't.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets exciting. And so, for example, there's an episode called Pit of Peril.
Yes.
That went through a very turbulent production history. I won't go into it because it's just a long story.
Yeah.
But
you can tell when you're watching the episode.
Yes, you can. But the version we had, upon watching it, very quickly became apparent that the editing doesn't match.
Yeah.
And there are scenes here that no one has seen before. Or at least no one's seen since the studio saw them.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
And certainly no one at the studio remembered. We spoke, we interviewed the director of that episode, obviously spoken to Gerry, all these people, no one recalled that.
Yeah.
And so that's a very cool find.
Yeah, of course.
Thunderbirds that people haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And then on a sort of a lesser level, that Trapped in the Sky, the version we have, the editing's slightly different. The famous portraits on the wall in the Tracy Lounge.
It's just Scott's face.
It's very disconcerting. In the actual show, they've got photos, and then the photos become a video screen, and but in the version we found, it, like you say, it's a cutout of just the head. So it remains a photo apart from the head cutout, in which this live action face is now bobbing around in. And they clearly saw that and thought, no.
Yeah, it's very creepy. I'm very glad they changed that, I think. It's Oh, well, there you go.
That has sort of snowballed, and we've looked at other avenues of finding things, and we've turned up, sound effects that people haven't heard for years. Dialogue recordings that they did unedited now.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to think of the Barry Gray who did the music for all of this. His private copy of Thunderbirds Argo, the film that they did, the copy he used to score the film, watching it back, it's in black and white and it's cropped and it's odd, but it's got differences. There are shots there, even if they're in a compromised image quality.
Yeah,
there's still things that people haven't seen before.
That's it. I remember there being a little bit of hype that I think you might have thought because there's like lost cut scenes from Thunderbirds Are Go, isn't
Yeah,
there?
like that is now the holy grail.
That's the one.
A good chunk of Thunderbirds Are Go was filmed and then cut out.
Yeah.
And people have been familiar with what that was because those scenes were in the novelization or photos were.
Yeah,
there's
like sort of publicity photos, I
Yeah.
think, of some of those moments, which is the closest you can get. But
For now.
yeah, you never know.
So yeah, we're on the hunt for stuff, and new things are continue to appear. The collection we're investigating now, and I think just the revelation of we hadn't considered that the answer prints could yield something like this. It just wasn't
I suppose.
something we were thinking of at all. But now that is something, we're investigating every avenue we can.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, I don't blame you. I'd be exactly the same. And I think lost media is interesting in general anyway, but when it's like from so long ago and for something, like you say, that's so iconic that you just wouldn't expect there to be any remaining bits and pieces of. And I didn't realize you had found so much more since all that, because I was watching, you had like a great series of sort of YouTube videos all about like the differences, and I mean I love those videos. They were brilliant. If you please keep making them, 'cause I was absolutely loving them. It was like every Saturday I think a new one would come out and I'd be like, yeah, look at this new lost Thunderbirds footage.
Oh, so you're the one who was watching them.
That was me. Yeah.
Clicking refresh.
100%. Yeah, all of those views, that was just me. But yeah, so I mean, like you say, even though you sort of think it's a closed book, all it takes is something like that.
Yeah, it completely rewrites what you thought you knew about the history of this stuff. Yeah,
that's great. That is so fascinating. From like 10 years ago when you were making a documentary about it, and now to still be finding stuff, and finding more, uncovering a bit more to the story. And to some people it'd be really boring, but to us it's so cool. Like
to the people that count,
it's really good. I mean, the people who know their pit of perils from the Trap in the Skies, it's like it is so cool. And yeah, I mean, totally. I'm really interested to see where that goes, and I am following the whole thing very eagerly. Because yeah, you never know. Thunderbirds Are Go, lost scenes, or to be honest, anything from like the other shows as well.
Absolutely,
that this is just Thunderbirds that we're talking about. There might be answer prints from Captain Scarlet, Stingray, God knows what.
Well, for years there was a Stingray episode that nobody knew anything about that turned up.
All right.
There was an episode they had produced linking material to bridge other episodes together, and nobody knew about it, and then it turned up in an archive.
Is that the one where it's like This Is Your Life, but for Troy Tempest?
No, that's actually in the series.
The series.
This one is they're sort of at home with a projector and they're going over past missions.
Okay, yeah.
And then that ended up going out on television as a brand new thing. So if that could exist for 40 years before that turned up, who knows what else is out there?
Of course, yeah. You don't know, because it's like and because it's from that era where this stuff wasn't really documented very well, so a lot of it will just be hidden in sheds. I mean, thank God they didn't go to Antiques Roadshow. That's the thing. Like that, they actually went to you, and it yielded results. I think it's scary because it could just disintegrate
easily. I mean, if you saw these cans of film, you wouldn't have assigned any value to them. They were rusted and they had gaps in them, covered in cobwebs. Some of them smelled of vinegar. Vinegar syndrome is something films get. So we've preserved that as best we can. We're doing a 4K scanning project. Everything we find gets scanned in 4K, so at least there's a digital element that is protected.
Yeah, it's still out there somewhere. It's not, even if it's like not seen to be as valuable, it's still kept, which is amazing. That's the main thing, really. So yeah, that is a great point, because I had been meaning to ask you how involved you were in that, because that's much more of an ongoing thing now, rather than a lot of the other stuff's kind of wrapped up. But yeah, well done. Thank you for reminding us of that. Terrible hosting on my part.
Shut up.
Well, I guess, this is the sort of bonus round now. More generally, to close out the episode, what is your favourite Supermarionation series, and what are some of your favourite episodes?
That's a big question.
It is a big question, yeah.
Well, I think I've alluded to the fact that I watched these programs as a kid in the early 90s, and then went away from it. I was a bit, like, as a kid, I had the toys and was really into it, and then went away from it. And it wasn't until meeting Stephen that I became immersed in all of this. So if you want to talk about the ins and outs of episodes, it's someone like Stephen or someone like Elliot who loved it their entire lives you need to speak to.
Who've seen like it thousands of times over. I
easily,
guess.
yes. And thank God, because that's got us where we are. I've got a particular fondness for Stingray over Thunderbirds, I think.
Yeah.
I prefer the half-hour length. I like the snappier pace of it.
Yeah.
I like the dynamics of those characters.
Agreed, totally.
It's slightly more comic booky, I'd say.
Yeah, actually, I can't argue with that at all. Yeah, I think.
And I love Fall Feather Falls as well, which is a much earlier one. Even 50. Maybe I've just got a bad attention span. But those are 15-minute episodes.
Really?
Black and white Western cowboy series.
Yeah.
As far as I know, the only British Western cowboy series.
Quite possibly, yeah.
And they've just got a beautiful, a naive charm to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're watching these young filmmakers who haven't done much else, really going for it. Like the landscapes that they build and the ambition of the stories they come up with isn't limited by the fact that they're this rinky-dink company.
Yeah. No, totally. I think Fall Feather Falls is a great one, actually, because that one, I feel like that gets ever so slightly forgot because that's pre-Lou Grade, very not sci-fi. Yeah. So it's like...
And black and white, you have to face it. People don't necessarily want to watch something that's in black and white, which is a shame.
I think it's a harder sell because, like, obviously, like you say, Thunderbird, Stingray, and Captain Scarlet especially got repeats. You know, BBC Two picked them up and they got a massive second wave of popularity in the 90s.
Well, I think that's such a testament to those shows. Like, I came along in the 90s. There was the 92 or 93, the Thunderbirds big revival.
Yeah, 92, I think.
And that's when you had the Blue Peter, Tracy Island, and that went big. And then again in 2000, another big repeat run. And that's where someone like Elliot, who I've spoken about, like the other main guy.
Yeah.
He's younger than Stephen or I, but he came of age in that period of the show.
That era, yeah.
And you know, to a lesser extent, there was a mini one around the 50th where they were re-releasing stuff and showing stuff.
I think that would have been where I came in, I guess, other than the fact that I was well aware of it because my dad just talked about these things, like Doctor Who, like Thunderbirds, like all of that. He would talk about it, he would show us them, and it was fascinating. But then when it started being like shown on TV, you know, you had the like you say, filmed in Supermarionation, as you would well be aware of, and the anniversary episodes, all of that. It did feel like it was everywhere at one point, which was the part where I got really interested and started trying to copy it. And but yeah, it is so timeless. I think they really do, like, the sort of come in waves, but at the same time, like, it's unbelievable that it is from the 60s to some extent, especially Stingray. I mean, the jump from Fireball XL5 to Stingray is, like, no pun intended, light years ahead. Like, it really from the colour and the set design and something as simple as, like, the glass eyes and, like, all of that kind of thing and the different heads, and, like, it's so much more technically sound. And I think Stingray's a great one because it's definitely the closest in terms of Thunderbirds. Like, it's, for me, I'd never really watched Stingray that much when I was a kid, but then when I got back into them, I was like, Thunderbirds is great, but what about these other ones? And Stingray is it's the most like Thunderbirds out of all of them. Yeah. But like you say, it's very comic booky, it's very over the top. It's quite a lot more like, it's less grounded because it's got, you know, aliens and all sorts of like things like that in.
I know one you've mentioned before is Titan Goes Pop.
Yeah,
I think that's a great episode.
Such a good episode, yeah.
So silly.
It is, because that's it. It's silly because it's like, it's Beatlemania with puppets, and so, but yet, like you say, when you start throwing in the undersea aliens and the, like, and then the sort of, there's a bit of Stingray action in it as well. Yeah. And you get Duke Dexter, who's like this sort of Elvis impersonator almost. It's so funny. I mean, it is, but it just doesn't take itself that seriously, which I think is why it works.
I think those are the ones from Stingray that I lean towards. I think Stand By for Action, where they're making a film about Stingray within Stingray, and Troy's got his nose put out of joint because he's not the star, and the star's very dismissive of him and all that stuff.
I love episodes like that. There was an episode of The Real Ghostbusters that did the same thing. That was really funny because they just used footage from the real film. But anyway, that's stuff like that is fun, and I feel like like Thunderbirds, as much as I love it, you don't get much of that. It's very much like that one feels like more of a gritty drama while still being quite.
Yeah. And again, with Thunderbirds, I lean more towards the humorous ones or the fantasy side ones, like Duchess Assignment. I love
it's a great
just because
episode.
of the Duchess and the voice that I can't do. It's just amazing.
I know exactly what you mean, though.
Or the Cham Cham.
That's a great episode.
I think the Cham Cham's the closest that Thunderbirds gets to being James Bond or the Avengers.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have seen more of that.
Yeah.
Had it gone on.
Yeah.
I'd love that. Or if I was to do more Thunderbirds now,
if
that's
you could
the
create
kind of
more,
direction
more
I would go in. Yeah.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I love that because, like you say, it's very James Bondy, and it's also a slightly different character dynamic of Tintin, Penelope, and Parker being like the main heroes of that episode. I like it when that happens. I mean, I put The Uninvited mainly because Scott Tracy and Thunderbird 1 were always my favorite as a kid, so I loved that one because that felt like that was like a proper Scott Tracy episode where it was like he was the main character and Thunderbird 1 was the one sort of doing the action because, like, you know, everybody loves Thunderbird 2, but Thunderbird 1 was always my favorite because, well, to put it simply, I like blue more than green. That when I was a kid, that was the reason, but also because it feels like that vehicle's always just the first to get there, and then he just sort of sits there and talks you through it. Where that one, he's like he's like in a gunfight. He's like doing all sorts of like sort of cool stuff.
And the crash scene from the beginning is one of the best things they did in terms of editing and pacing.
Oh,
and
totally.
music.
It's so tense. And the fact that all that happens, and then the title card drops, it's like, whoa, it's like you just don't expect it, you know? So, yeah, that's one I mentioned. Titan Ghost Pop's a brilliant episode. I mean, Captain Scarlet, I'll draw some attention to. I've got the t-shirt on. It's not my favourite out of all of them because I think I still love it. It's just got nowhere near as much character as some of the others, which is like...
I can appreciate what they were doing and the art of it. The Scarlet and Joe Knight, they look beautiful.
Yeah,
but I think
of course,
there's a stillness to it that I don't quite respond to in the same way.
Agreed.
I think if I had to pick to watch one of those, it would be The Secret Service, which is the series that no one loves, just because it is insane.
It knows what it is, I think, slightly more. It's like, it is just crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's a show that should not have existed, but I'm so glad it does. It's about a gobbledygook talking vicar who's also a secret agent who can shrink his gardener to go into... What is going on there?
It is insane. I mean, as much as like I love it now, but I can't see why that was what got them cancelled at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. When the big part of their business is selling internationally.
Yeah. that is like excruciatingly British compared to some of the others.
And that is literally, how does that translate? If you've got gobbledygook in English, how does that go into Japanese or whatever?
But yeah, I mean, and I do have an appreciation for Joe Knight. Joe Knight is a funny one because I've watched quite a lot of it and I liked it, but the theme song I think is the best part. Like, it's a great theme on like a show that's just kind of all right. But yeah, Captain Scarlet, it's great, but it definitely feels like the one that's. I think it's a bit more dated because it's trying a bit too hard, It's trying a bit too hard to be like live action, if you know what I mean.
Right,
where it's like it's that part where it's like, I know they'd always had a bit of a thing of like they didn't want to be doing puppets, but at least they were like, yeah, well, we're doing puppets, let's lean into it and like try and have a bit of fun with it. Whereas Captain Scarlet, it's like, no, we've got these new realistic ones and they can't walk, so let's put them on travelators all the time. So
as a consequence, they just look lazy.
Yes,
they never walk anywhere.
They never walk anywhere. They're always sat down. They're always like a series of like world-saving agents who are all just like chilling, lounging around. So yeah. But at the same time, I do still kind of respect how much like darker it is.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
Fantastic voice work as well, and Scarlet in particular.
Yeah, it's just Cary Grant. I'd never see, this is a guilty admission, but I'd never really seen a proper Cary Grant film.
Right.
So I knew that voice from Captain Scarlet first, and then when I watched the Philadelphia Story with my mom a while ago, and I was like, oh my God, why is he doing like the Captain Scarlet voice? And then I remembered that like they'd hired him because he could do a good Cary Grant impression. I was like, wow, I didn't realize how good the impression actually was. Like, he sounds just like him, but it's gone the other way around in my head now, which is, there you go. That's Supermarionation pilled. My brain is. I'm messed up, but yeah, it's interesting because it's just so out there and so widely different in terms of tone from like
You've got to admire them for taking the swing and just saying,
100%.
let's do something completely
so different, so much like darker, and it's just, it is. It's a creepy show, to be fair, like for what it is. So yeah, I guess that gets a special mention. I think I'd wrote the pilot down mainly just because that kind of is that's the moment that demonstrates, this this ain't your granddad's Thunderbirds. This is hardcore. Well, I think that's all the international rescuing we have time for. Make sure to check out our Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook pages for more CineClub podcast content and updates. As always, this episode was recorded and produced by us, the Sunderland University students, as well as being engineered and edited by Emily Main. A special thanks goes out to Steve Cannon, Barbara Sadler, Richard Berry, and an extra special thanks to Andrew for joining me today.
Cheers for having us. No
bother. Like I say, it's been genuinely a very fascinating, eye-opening experience. I've loved it. So thank you. Thanks for being here. A reminder that your Spectrum agent this week has been me, Jake. This has been a CineClub production for Spark. Thanks for listening. FAB.